Team 111, Wild Stank. We're a 15-year team out of Schaumburg, Illinois. I was approached by people at Motorola that were looking to form a partnership with the school district in our area, and they thought this was a good program. So they brought it to me and a couple of other people, and we sat down. We read through the information about it, and we had a big discussion about whether or not we should do it. And it was really two people from Motorola, two people from the school system, two teachers, and we weren't sure if we wanted to do it. We read through the packet of information, and there was a lot of stuff to it. And it was right before Christmas time. We decided to take a couple weeks or a week break when we were off of work and think about it. And we came back after New Year's and decided to do it. And next thing we knew, a week later, we were on an airplane to New Hampshire, and the rest is history. Being a mentor, there's a lot of different things involved to that. There's part of it is organization, and where you're managing a team and you're managing the individuals on the team. Part of it is working with individuals on the team, and there's individual relationships that you have with a lot of the students. And part of it is very action-oriented and achievement-oriented, and just trying to get a robot built and getting something to work, or designing the T-shirts, or making a team video, or making our team animation. So we have a lot of different projects that we do. So part of it's being a project manager. Part of being a mentor is working with the individuals. Part of it is being more of a manager. There's a couple of people that pop into mind that have had a big influence over me, and I probably should start with my parents. My father has been a very influential. He's maybe the smartest guy I know. He's always been very involved in volunteering in the community as well, and he was very involved in Chicago, the Association for Retarded Citizens, and I always found it very inspiring, and that has inspired me to get involved in FIRST, really. And he's an engineer, and he was very successful in that as well. My mother is also very influential in that she was always a person who was good at doing everything, and she was also very action oriented. But as a kid, especially when I grew up, I mean, she was actually good at sports, and a lot of moms weren't. So that was something I was actually proud of my mom for that. She was always there with a lot of the things that we did as kids, and supporting us, with the Cub Scouts and all the home stuff. And then when I got a little bit older, she was working, and she was very successful at work. Back then was the beginning days of computers, and she was one of the few people of that generation that seemed to actually understand how to work with them, and so she was very involved in that. So that was all very inspirational to me, just to kind of see how she did all that stuff. In the workplace, there are a couple people that were very influential to me. There was one individual that, on a personal basis, he was just very personal in paying attention to all the different things that happened to individuals. Even though he was a very senior level manager and he had probably thousands of employees, when individual things happened that were important in people's lives, he would make it a point to actually go and approach those people and talk to them. I mean, I had a major thing happen with me, and he made it a point of just talking to me about it. And I was just thinking, I'm just a little peon guy, and here's this very senior guy who took the time out to talk to me about it, and that made a big impression on me. Also, when I started working in my early years, there were some engineers that I worked with as the junior member that were just very knowledgeable about, and I was a software engineer, very knowledgeable about software, and just talking to them and the things that the processes they went through as far as developing our products and things were very interesting to me, and just how dedicated they were to it, and just the thought processes. So they were very influential as far as things I learned when I was at work. One of the ways that I think would be good to recruit people to become mentors is to explain what the program is all about. And really, if you want to become a mentor, being a mentor is getting an opportunity to remember why you became an engineer in the first place. One of the best things for me when I started mentoring our team is that it reminded me of all the things I used to love about being an engineer, because I hadn't really been doing them lately because I had progressed into management and I didn't get to design stuff and I didn't get to do a lot of the engineering anymore. And being part of the team, I actually got involved in designing and got involved in building and got my hands dirty again. And that was really one of the really positive, fun aspects for me as far as being a mentor. Another aspect of it was the opportunity to work with, and this is the opportunity you get if you want to be a mentor, you get an opportunity to work with students, with high school students. And at that time in my life, I hadn't really had a lot of association with high school students for the last 10, 15 years. And so my association was mostly involved with what you see on TV and what you see in the movies. Well, it was great to actually work with the students in person and realize that they're not all trouble and they're not all problems, and there's actually good things, and there's great kids out there, and the opportunity to work with them has been very rewarding and fun. I've got two cool moments that I'll talk about. One was, and this was way back in near the beginning, one of the first couple of years we did this. The head teacher that I was working with called me up, and he was all excited on the phone, and he goes, Dan, I just got a call from one of our parents, and she says to me, what are you doing at this school? My son hates school. He never wants to go. He's always complaining about it. It's just, he hates it. And all of a sudden, the last couple of months, since he's been doing this robotics thing, he's going to school early. He's staying till 9 or 10 at night. All he's doing is talking about it. He's getting all his homework done. What exactly are you doing there? And and so that was a very powerful phone call. And when he told me that was great. And so that I found very rewarding because it was clear that we actually made a difference, which we had been hoping to do. Another cool story is our very first year. When we designed a robot, we didn't really know what we were doing, and we didn't even figure out what motors to use for our drive system until the very end, and then we finally got it. And we got to the competition, and we had designed our drive system in such a way that we had sprockets that were on the axles for the drive wheels, but they were connected to the drive wheels. They weren't connected to the drive wheels directly. They were a little bit off on the axle, and we had pins that we connected them up with. Well, there was just way too much torque on these pins and too much tension, and we would drive for about 30 seconds, and the pins would pop, and the robot would go dead and wouldn't drive anymore. And while we were practicing it in the hallways at the school a couple days before we shipped, and back in those days you didn't ship the robot, you brought it with you on the airplane to the competition. But so a couple days before, and it kept happening, and then it was the night before we were leaving, and we couldn't figure out how to do it. We were trying different pins, thicker pins, stronger pins, cold rolled steel, everything. We couldn't figure it out. We got to the competition, and sure enough, we went out there, we did a practice match, 30 seconds into it, drive breaks again. So we came back to the pits, and we huddled together, and we got all the team together, and we only had, and we've got a big team now, but we had a big team that year, but we only had 7 kids that traveled with us to this first competition. And we got together, and the guys are like, Dan, what should we do? This is, this kind of the bummer, keeps breaking. And so I said, well, why don't you guys go scour the pits, see if you can come up with any ideas of what some other people are doing. And so they went out for about a half hour, 45 minutes, and they came back, and they said, why don't we connect the sprocket directly to the wheel? Pin it directly to the wheel, and and then there won't be this torque on there. And I looked at it and I said, that's a good idea. That's not an idea, but it's a high risk because we're redoing our complete drive system. You guys want to do it? And we took a vote, and they all decided to do it. And so we went off, we did it, and we had to get some machining done by some of the machinists that were helping out there. And we did it, and it never failed again after that. And it was just like, we were thrilled. I mean, it was just a great moment for the team because it was really a on-the-spot change in the direction and change in design, and the guys just totally did it, and it was very cool. What I've seen is a little bit of a cycling of the number of women involved in engineering throughout my career, and in that when I began, there were very few women, but it was starting to be on a little bit of an uptake around my generation. There were a few more that were graduating, and so I saw the numbers increase. Then I saw it plateau for a while, then I saw it go down a little bit, and it kind of fluctuates now. So what I thought was a positive upswing, it kind of flattened out, and I hadn't seen that much of it happening anymore. I think there's still some cultural problems with the fact that in school it's still not as cool for girls to get involved in math and science, and so that's a problem as far as generating numbers of women that we have. One of the things that I would do to try to influence women to get more involved in engineering and why they should do it is, well, first of all, it's an interesting thing to do, and it's fun to do. Secondly, there's a lot of opportunities. Getting women involved in engineering is good for the actual workforce, because it obviously doubles the number of people that are available to work in that, and that obviously is going to increase the number of qualified people and good engineers. So it's good for the engineering culture. It's good for them personally, because the opportunities will be there. They will be noticed, for sure, and for the most part, what I have seen is that people are very open to it. I mean, it actually makes the workplace culture more positive to have more diversity, as opposed to just having a bunch of guys. The locker room kind of working environment for me, I don't think is as good as if you've got more of a diverse group, and so I think that's better for everybody involved. The thing that, and there's a lot of new opportunities for women as well, because I think that even though we've been saying this probably for 20, 30 years, that there's more opportunities for women, I think that it's really becoming a thing where it's ingrained in the culture, and in the generations now that is there, it's much more open to it and doesn't consider it an issue the way it used to be as much. So I think the opportunities are there now more for women. One funny story is worked in Motorola, and my job was when I started was writing software that was both in the infrastructure, the cell sites. These were for two-way public safety radios that police and fire would use, but similar to cell sites, and also on the actual radios, the two-way radios. And when you do dispatch on radios, you hear that little, we call it a talk permit tone, which is that tone. Well, one of my jobs was going to be to actually generate that tone in the radio with software. And I was talking to the guy who I shared a cube with, who came up with that tone, 5 years earlier or whenever that was. And what he told me was actually an interesting story. That tone that you hear, the dip sound, it sounds familiar, because that's the exact sound that is used in Star Trek. So we actually copied that sound from, you hear the dip, Kirk to Enterprise. We copied that sound, and that's what's in the Motorola radios when you actually hear, when you hear the police radio. So we copy that, and it's different frequencies that you have to, to generate the sound. But I always thought that was very interesting, and it was kind of fun.